Well, hello there. Welcome to my channel. My name is Kristen, and if you are new here I like to talk about social and cultural issues, usually through the lens of pop culture and public figures, but not always. Today's video is going to be hopefully interesting. Hopefully I don't make too many people mad at me. We'll see how it goes. I guess let's just get into it. I've got a little script that I wrote because this video is more well planned than some of the others I've done lately. So forgive me if I look down at the script. Okay, so this month, April 2021, Taylor Swift released Fearless, Taylor's version, which was basically a re-recorded version of her second studio album, Fearless. As somebody who loves pop music, it should be no surprise that I have been listening to this re-release this week on repeat, like many people have. And like many women my age, I grew up listening to Taylor Swift. I have vivid memories of listening to her in middle school. I can remember specifically one time hanging out in, I want to say, music class, getting some free time and, sharing earbuds with a friend and watching the music video for Love Story on her iPod Nano. I remember going home after school and watching Taylor Swift music videos or lyric videos on repeat just until I had the whole song committed to memory. I really liked Taylor Swift music, as a lot of middle school girls did back in that time period. And I would imagine they still like her now, but anyway. But despite the avid way that I listened to Taylor Swift, and specifically the album Fearless in my teenage years, this is really the first time as an adult that I've gone back and listened to those songs closely. And hearing the lyrics of this album, with my adult ears and with my life experience under my belt, there were some things that jumped out at me, and I want to talk about them. So let me just go ahead and say the title of this video is probably clickbait. It's probably something like how Taylor Swift ruined our love lives, or how Taylor Swift set unrealistic expectations for us, or something like that. And I probably need to go ahead and make it clear, I'm not going to be arguing in this video that Taylor literally ruined our love lives or single-handedly gave us unrealistic expectations for romance. What I'm going to be doing is talking about just kind of some of the toxic and unhealthy messages that you could get out of some of these songs if you were, say, an earnest middle schooler listening to them on repeat, like I was. And I'm going to talk about just like how that might have affected us. And so, if that doesn't sound interesting to you, that's okay. You don't have to watch the rest of this video. But if that does sound interesting to you, strap in, let's go. One last thing that I want to say, and this can be true for all media, not just music, but just because the messages in a song or piece of art in general are negative or perpetuate not the best ideas, doesn't mean that the song is bad or that the art is bad and that we shouldn't consume it. It just means that we as individuals need to learn to think critically and make ourselves aware of what the underlying messages of a piece of media are, so that we as the consumer can decide whether we want to internalize something or reject something. That's what this whole video is. It's going to be an exercise in critically reading through the lyrics, thinking about what they mean, what kinds of messages you could take away from them, and talking about whether we want to take those messages away or whether we just want to leave those with the song and just enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, okay. Now that I've done my disclaimer, let's get started. I'm not going to be going through every single song in this album the way I did with Lorde's Melodrama. I don't think that's as necessary since I'm not trying to analyze the story being told or anything. I'm just going to go through the songs that I found a little bit more egregious in terms of the negative messages that I got out of them. So the first song I want to start with is The Other Side of the Door. So this is the first verse and chorus of the song. In the heat of the fight, I walked away, ignoring words that you were saying, trying to make me stay. I said, this time I've had enough. And you've called 100 times, but I'm not picking up. Because I'm so mad I might tell you that it's over. But if you look a little closer, I said leave, but all I really want is you. To stand outside my window, throwing pebbles, screaming, I'm in love with you. Wait there in the pouring rain, coming back for more. And don't you leave, because I know all I need is on the other side of the door. What this describes here is some incredibly poor behavior. Storming out in the middle of a fight, ignoring somebody, stonewalling them, all while secretly wanting them to disregard all of the overt and subtle ways that you've told them to leave you alone. The idea that I should expect a significant other to stand out in the rain and ignore conflict or ignore boundaries that I've set, and just kind of wait for me to stop being mad at them, and keep coming back for more conflict is concerning. But to me, the first part of this song has really sent the message that, it's okay not to communicate what you actually want. It's okay just to communicate anger and expect the other person to figure out what you mean by that, and expect other people to be able to know the difference between when you really mean it and you actually want them to go away, and when you don't really mean it and you secretly want them to stand outside your window throwing pebbles and screaming that they love you. There's a lot going on there. So let's look at some more lyrics now. Oh, babe, if you know everything, tell me why you couldn't see when I left. I wanted you to chase after me. I'll scream out the window. I can't even look at you. I don't need you, but I do. I say there's nothing you can say to make this right again. I mean it. But what I mean is I said I leave, but baby, all I want is you. That is confusing as hell. Telling me that there's nothing I can do to make this right, but then at the same time wanting me to ignore you when you say that and try to make it right anyway, that's confusing. And so here with this lyric, we see it made very explicit that the narrator of the song wants their love interest to read her mind, essentially. She wants her love interest to know that when she walks away, she wants him to chase after her. But how is anybody supposed to know that that's what you want if you don't tell them? And then when you tell someone, I can't look at you and there's nothing you can say to fix it, that's something that if you say that to somebody, they can't be blamed for believing you. 1 second. Okay, so my AC kicked on. I tried to turn it off because I don't want it to make like a humming noise in the background, but me turning off the system didn't make it stop. So I don't really know what's going on with that. So sorry if the noise just increased, and sorry if I'm like not sitting in the same place I was earlier. Okay, back to what I was talking about. So to me, this song sort of creates a script for how fights are supposed to go. It says that a fight peaks when somebody, storms off, and the other person is supposed to know to chase after them and to continue trying to reconcile, even after being told that there's nothing that can be done. It sets up a really awful expectation that the people we date need to be able to read our minds and be able to tell whether we truly mean it when we tell them to leave us alone and that we cannot rectify things. This has 2 impacts. The first is that it creates a scenario in which people don't feel responsible for communicating their true feelings because people are supposed to be able to just tell what we actually mean. And then the second thing it does is it creates the impression that it would actually be romantic if somebody were to ignore us when we tell them to leave us alone and that we can't make amends. It sets up people to have their boundaries ignored and eroded and for them to view it as romantic. That's an issue. So as an adult listening to this, I know what it is, and I know that this stuff that's happening in the song are not appropriate behaviors and they're not appropriate expectations. I can listen to a song like this and enjoy it for what it is. But as a teen, I couldn't do that. When I was a teenager, I definitely had some of the ideas that I'm describing, and I got some of them from songs like this. I thought it was okay not to communicate what I actually wanted, and that people should try to make amends with me, even if I tell them that I can't even look at them and there's nothing they can do. And that's nonsense. That kind of idea really set me up to be disappointed in my romantic relationships, and it set me up to hurt other people's feelings. That's not good. So that's all I have to say about this song. Let's move on to the next one on my list, which is 15. And this is a song that I genuinely still like. It, speaks to my heart and my nostalgic memories of being a 15-year-old. But there is still part of the song that I feel like I want to talk about because I find it to have had a little bit of a negative message. So let me just summarize the song for you before I get to the part that I wanted to talk about. So the song is about high schoolers, first love, first heartbreak, etc. Okay? And this is what I want to talk about in the song, though. It says, "Back then, I swore I was going to marry him someday, but I realized some bigger dreams of mine. And Abigail gave everything she had to a boy who changed his mind." Abigail in this song is the narrator's best friend. So, to me, as somebody who grew up steeped in purity culture, Abigail giving everything she had to a boy who changed his mind is pretty obviously about Abigail, losing her virginity. In air quotes there, because virginity is a social construct. You can't really lose it. You never really had it to begin with. But anyway, but it's about Abigail losing her virginity to a boy who later broke up with her, right? And to me, the way that Taylor kind of juxtaposes her realizing her bigger dreams and not actually marrying some guy against Abigail losing her virginity kind of has the implication that Abigail did not realize her bigger dreams, maybe due to her having lost her virginity in high school. And it also kind of implies that Taylor's success is in part, at least, due to her abstinence as a teenager. These lyrics to me give the impression that if you are intimate with somebody and you later break up, the breakup is somehow worse because you were intimate. And had you not done that, then the breakup wouldn't have been so bad. But I don't know. I don't think that's true. In my opinion, these lyrics in 15 kind of echo the shame and fear-inducing messaging that, girls like me received as teenage girls from church and even from our schools, about how we needed to protect our virginity, that all guys wanted from us was our bodies and what they could do for them, that losing our virginity made us lesser. Taylor didn't create these toxic ideas or messages, and she's not responsible for the fact that they exist, of course, but it's worth recognizing that in this song, she may have unintentionally reinforced those ideas. So it's just worth being aware of it so that you don't have to internalize something that you don't want to, right? Okay, so next song. The next song I want to talk about is Love Story. I'm not going to go through the entire song, really, just the ending, so I'll summarize it as well, just like the last one. This song is about two people who are in love. There is some kind of conflict in their relationship that makes it hard for them to be together. In the song, it seems like the narrator's father doesn't want them to be together for some reason. It's setting up a Romeo and Juliet story. So the part that I want to talk to you about goes like this. It's towards the end of the song. It's kind of the conclusion of the song. So it goes, "I got tired of waiting, wondering if you were ever coming around. My faith in you was fading when I met you on the outskirts of town and said, 'Romeo, save me. I've been feeling so alone. I keep waiting for you, but you never come. Is this in my head? I don't know what to think.' He knelt to the ground and pulled out a ring and said, 'Marry me, Juliet. You'll never have to be alone. I love you, and that's all I really know. I talked to your dad. Go pick out a white dress. It's a love story. Baby, just say yes.'" So what this song does, in my opinion, is kind of like the first song that I said it creates a script. I feel like this song sets up a script for how issues and conflicts in a relationship could be resolved. The conflict in this song, of course, is that the singer's dad doesn't want her to be with him. And at the end of the song, she's gotten to the point where she has lost faith that she'll ever be with him because, he doesn't seem to be coming around and she's not hearing from him. And only at that last moment where she's about to give up on him does he sweep in and propose marriage. The idea that we could or should expect a proposal after a period of no contact when we're at a point where we feel like someone is never coming around, that's problematic. If somebody disappears from your life and then they suddenly pop back in to propose marriage, that's not great. Inconsistency in the way that somebody loves you is not a good thing. It's a sign of emotionally damaging behavior. And we need to be aware of that. The next thing I want to bring up is that this song kind of presents the idea that by marrying someone, all the problems are going to be fixed and you're never going to have to be alone. And all you have to do to have a successful love story is just to say yes, baby. That's a really naive and simple way of viewing the world and of looking at love. It's the same kind of message that Disney princess movies and even most romantic comedies pushes. It's just not true, though. Being alone is a part of life, regardless of if you are partnered or not. And healthy, long-lasting relationships take a lot of work. They take much more than just saying yes and getting married. That's really all I have to say about this song. And I just want to reiterate again that Taylor did not create the ideas that underlie this song. She's not responsible for the persistence of these ideas. We as listeners, though, are responsible for being critical and learning to appreciate art for what it is without internalizing and accepting its underlying messages as truth. And that's again what I'm trying to do with this video, is just kind of, look at these songs that I really like and look at where the messages that they're sending, they're not messages that I want to take and kind of believe. So I'm not saying it's a bad song. I'm not saying you're bad if you like the song. I'm just saying think about the songs that you listen to. That's all. I've got 2 songs left, okay? The next song that I want to talk about is You Belong With Me. Everybody knows this song, right? I'm not going to read every lyric of this song, but I honestly could, because the whole song has some issues. It's from the perspective of a girl who's best friends with a guy that she's crushing on, and he happens to have a girlfriend. The whole song is full of comparisons between herself and this girl. Things like, she doesn't get his humor like I do. She wears short skirts. I wear t-shirts. She wears high heels. I wear sneakers. She's cheer captain. I'm in the bleachers. It's very, very not like the other girls. And frankly, if this song was sung by a man about a girl with a boyfriend, it would sound like an incel song. That's what it would sound like. So, and I'm not somebody who thinks like there are people who will say, if you switch the genders, this would be awful and blah, 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 blah. I'm not really big on, switch the genders. And if it sounds bad the other way, then that means it's bad all the time. Because I think that, some things you can't really switch perfectly and have like a one-to-one comparison. But I do think it's worth noting that if a guy made this song about a girl with a boyfriend, he would sound like an incel, and I don't know, I wouldn't like the song very much, because I don't know, like, I've been a girl with a boyfriend who has a guy friend that's like being really weird, and it's not fun. So, anyway, that's not the point of this, but so, okay, I love this song, right? But if I'm being honest, the idea that somebody belongs with you, that you could ever know that someone belongs with you, is just, it's wrong. And the idea that you could know someone belongs with you, but the other person might not agree with you, that doesn't make sense. If a person doesn't want to be with you, then they don't belong with you, right? People belong with the people that they want to be with, right? So if you're in a situation where you have a crush on someone, where your feelings aren't returned, the right thing to do is accept it and focus your attention on somebody who might actually be interested in you. But to me, this song kind of pushes the idea that, because you have a crush on someone and you feel strongly about them, you really could possibly know that you guys belong together, and you should, hold out for them and hope for the best. And that's really not what you should do. And again, like I've tried to reiterate with every song here, just because I think the underlying message isn't great doesn't mean I don't like the song. This song slaps. It's a bop. It's just, it's worth critically examining art that we love, because it can influence the way we approach life. And I don't ever want to approach my romantic life with the perspective of like being entitled to somebody's love, because that's kind of what this song sounds like to me. So the last song that I want to talk about on this album is The Way I Loved You. And I think this one is probably it might be the most damaging of all the songs, in my opinion. It's either The Way I Loved You or The Other Side of the Door that I would say are like the most, like have the most harmful messages. I'll talk about why after I finish talking about the song though. So essentially, The Way I Loved You is a song about being in a healthy relationship with somebody who treats you well, and just being bored and missing the roller coaster up and down that you get with a toxic relationship. The chorus goes, I miss screaming and fighting and kissing in the rain, and it's 2 a.m. and I'm cursing your name. You're so in love that you act insane. I never knew I could feel that much, and that's the way I loved you. I skipped some lyrics, but that's the gist. In many ways, this song accurately represents how somebody might feel when they are in their first healthy relationship that does not involve extreme highs and lows. We can get used to the highs and lows, and in some ways we can become addicted to that rush, and we can start to expect that rush in relationships. We start to associate this intense up and down with love, and we start to think that that is what love is, and that's not what it is. So when you've been in a lot of really up and down type relationships, it can be hard to feel happy and good in an actual healthy dynamic because it doesn't have that rush that comes with something more toxic. But unfortunately, in my opinion, while this song does accurately depict what it might feel like to be in your first healthy, kind of boring relationship because you're not fighting all the time, the song doesn't do a great job of making clear that that's what's happening. In my opinion, the song it romanticizes the past toxic relationship and kind of denigrates and dismisses the existing healthy relationship. And it does so in a way that, I don't know, I could see an 18-year-old, 19-year-old girl in her first healthy relationship thinking, this is boring, I miss screaming and fighting, I don't know. The biggest thing to me about this song that like kind of makes it damaging is that it presents the highs and lows as being indicative of how deeply in love you are with somebody. And the bored tone where she says later in the song, he respects my space and he never makes me wait, and he calls exactly when he says he will. He's charming and endearing and I'm comfortable, but I miss screaming and fighting and kissing in the rain. This kind of communicates the idea that it's boring and undesirable to be with somebody who's consistent and who respects your boundaries. It kind of pushes this idea that we should want someone unpredictable who's hot and cold towards us. And of course, the opposite is true. Unpredictable and inconsistent and unreliable love is not healthy. But it also triggers really strong feelings because, our brains, they respond more strongly to unpredictable stimuli. So somebody who is unpredictable, who treats you in a way that, sometimes they're really, really good to you and other times they're not, that can actually make you feel more intensely than if somebody is consistently good to you. And so that can make you feel like you love somebody more when they are treating you in this inconsistent way. But in reality, that's just how your brain works. It's not indicative of how much you love someone or how good someone is for you. So for me, what I can say is that this song really reinforced the idea that a passionate, exciting, really, really in love relationship involves ups and downs and screaming and fighting. And that's not true. In fact, that's the opposite of what I want to have in a relationship now. But when I was a teenager, I thought that that's what romance meant. And songs like this kind of helped keep that going in my head longer than it needed to. So I said I was going to talk about why I think The Other Side of the Door and The Way I Loved You are probably the more harmful songs on the album. To me, it's mainly because of the way that they both kind of encourage this idea that, really intense fights are a sign of how in love you are. And I don't know, to me, The Other Side of the Door presents this idea that you don't have to communicate what you actually want, and you can expect people to read your mind, and expect people to really be put through the ringer to be with you in terms of like going through fights, and like that's super, super not fun. And then to me, the way I loved you, it promotes this idea that intense fights and stuff are actually a sign that you are really in love. And if somebody's being really good to you and really consistent, that's just boring, and you're just going to miss the really unpredictable, ups and down roller coastery relationships. And I think that is bad. I think those are bad messages. They're not bad songs. They are just bad messages for somebody to take in without thinking critically. So the message that I really want people to take away from this video is not that Fearless is a bad album or that Taylor Swift is a bad artist. I just want to encourage people to be curious about the music they listen to and to take a critical approach to the music they listen to. Because when you can identify, what message a song is pushing, then you can decide whether you agree with that message or not. But when you're not thinking critically, you're just kind of listening, and it can get kind of embedded, the message of the song can get embedded in your brain without you even really realizing it. And so, I don't know, I just think being aware and critical of the art we consume is the best way to make sure that we get to decide what messages we keep from art and what messages we, leave. So I hope this has been an interesting or maybe helpful exercise in lyrical analysis. I am not any kind of scholar or lyricist, so I'm definitely not an expert, but, I don't know. Anyway, I hope this has been interesting, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and that I have not pissed off Taylor Swift fans, because I am a Taylor Swift fan, so please love me. Have a wonderful day. Bye.